Thanks very much. So just to explain, my name is Hine-Wai Loose,
Yes.
and I'm originally from New Zealand, but now I'm based in Geneva, where, as explained, I work on the Arms Trade Treaty for control arms. So I do have a presentation. I'm not great with technical issues, so let me try and get this organized.
Yeah, you have,
Okay, perfect, perfect. Great. Thanks very much.
yeah, you are
Yeah.
welcome.
And uh yeah, okay. Okay, this is perhaps as good as it gets with me. Um, it is starting. So, thanks very much to Matt for this invitation. It is really important that the Arms Trade Treaty, if its norms are to take hold, that it's globalized across all regions. Just to explain a little bit about the background to Control Arms. Control Arms was formed 21 years ago. It was initially an alliance between IANSA, that's the international network working on small arms, and Amnesty International and Oxfam, and it came together to build this coalition to bring about the negotiation of the Arms Trade Treaty. And now we are very much focused on the implementation and universalization and compliance with the ATT. So let me carry on, and now I've gone too quickly. So this is the progression of when the ATT was opened for signature, and then when it actually entered into force, that was in 2014. And now in 2024, we are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the entry into force of the ATT. The ATT, why is it important? And, I just really want to build on what the others have said, Yusuf and Fadi. For control arms, what is really important about the ATT is that through national control systems, through responsible behavior and standards being applied in export decisions, the ATT can help to prevent human suffering. It can contribute to preventing genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and serious violations of international humanitarian law and human rights law. So, in different contexts, the ATT has applied, and we Control Arms have continued to call for its compliance. What does the ATT regulate? As it's already been said, it's a treaty focused on the regulation of conventional weapons. And there you see in a very quick snapshot the weapons that are regulated under the ATT. Also, its provisions not only cover the export and import of weapons, but the transit and transshipment, in other words, the movement of weapons, also brokering, which concerns agents selling weapons, and these cover the 7 conventional weapons categories, including small arms and light weapons. There's also provisions addressing ammunition and parts and components. There again, the slide before you has the role about the ATT and its contribution to ensuring respect for international humanitarian law and human rights law. It also works to prevent terrorism. Article 7.4 was the first ever international instrument of international law that recognized the connection between conventional weapons and gender-based violence. It also works to prevent organized crime and and conventional weapons being used in such activities. So moving along on ATT universalization, there's a very quick snapshot of where we've got to in terms of universalisation and those countries that are states parties. The most recent states to join the ATT are the Gambia and Malawi. So at the moment, the total number of states parties is 115. I just want to now go through some of the work that Control Arms has done to promote universalisation of the ATT. And for example, we've conducted different campaigns over the years. So the first was the race to 50 states. And the reason why 50 is an important number is because that is what triggers the entry into force of that's what triggered the entry into force of the ATT. And then Mozambique was the 100th state party to join the ATT. And there in the middle is my colleague, Raluca Murasan, at the time that Mozambique deposited their instrument of accession to the United Nations Office of Legal Affairs in New York. So that's some background to Control Arms work on ATT universalisation. Also, I should just emphasise that we continue to work on universalisation. We hold workshops both at the country and regional levels. We've conducted research, and we continue to meet with countries at both the officials and political levels. So this is always a stream of ongoing work for us. We've talked about the challenges and we've had some discussion about the benefits, and just to have a further examination of some of these benefits, a number of Middle East and countries let me just back up for a moment. Just talking about regional peace and security, it is, the ATT can enhance regional peace and security by reducing the risk of arms smuggling and diversion to unauthorized users. And by countries putting in place national control systems, they can have a much better sense of what is going through official channels and then what is being diverted through the illicit channels. I also want to say a brief word about strategic trade controls. A number of Middle East states would have already established standards for strategic trade controls, and they would have done this with a focus on weapons of mass destruction. But conventional weapons can be added to these controls, and that helps to bring about the establishment of a national control system. And for example, this is how the Philippines has worked on and completed its work on implementation of the Arms Trade Treaty and its regulations. I said at the beginning that for Control Arms, universalisation of the ATT is very important, and that we've done research and assessments on what are the challenges to joining the ATT. And those cover a wide range of factors, such as the prioritisation that's placed on this issue, and that's really requires working at the political level. If a country is in a crisis situation, that is also seen as being a barrier to universalisation. When looking at the ATT, some states are concerned about whether they have the required domestic systems and laws in place, and whether they will be able to fulfill the reporting requirements. Another issue is about capacity and whether states have the necessary expertise and human resources to ensure that their obligations under the ATT are met. And then there are other issues such as procedural issues, lengthy processes in parliaments, And it is fair to say that there is, in some regions and in some countries, there is a general attitude of reticence towards the ATT. But through outreach and advocacy, through discussions at the regional level, and through information sharing, we believe that these challenges can be overcome. And it's also what is also important to know is that the ATT states parties have established a voluntary trust fund, and so that makes funding available for different activities such as building capacity, workshops, and regional dialogue, etc. Just to address some of the other challenges, or what are seen as challenges concerning the ATT. And Fadi has really outlined a number of these that are very specific to the Middle East region. And so I just want to build on what he said, basically. One of the misconceptions with the ATT is that it is a disarmament treaty. And this is incorrect. It's a treaty that seeks to regulate the international trade in conventional weapons. It does not seek to ban the trade. It has no requirements to reduce a state's current stockpile levels. And it does not interfere in a state's sovereign right to manufacture weapons. So these are some important myths to dispel. The previous speaker spoke about the importance of transparency, and of course, transparency can be a key confidence building measure. It demonstrates that states are exercising good faith and are fulfilling their commitments. And that's why Control Arms, strongly supports the national reporting obligations under the ATT. And we also, an independent project of Control Arms is the Arms Trade Treaty Monitor, where you can see the information that states are submitting in their national reports each year.
Okay.
Sorry, just a couple of last points. This year, we had the first discussion in February on a case of compliance, and that concerned transfers to the Israel-Palestine conflict. And of course, there's a number of serious questions raised about such transfers and their potential contribution to genocide and to war crimes and to violations of international humanitarian law and human rights. And so Control Arms, independently of Palestine, proposed that there should be a discussion under one of the working groups, and in fact it was discussed. And it is important to have this type of dialogue and to understand how states are interpreting the key provisions of Articles 6 and 7 and how those are being applied. And Another question that is often raised about the Arms Trade Treaty, and that is, why should I join if the Russian Federation and the United States haven't joined? And the response to this is that, in fact, over 50% of the total world's trade in conventional weapons is actually being conducted by states who are parties to the ATT. So you will be joining a growing community, and it's only by joining this community and participating in its activities that you can influence the future developments of this area of international law and the state practices that begin to be developed in this area. So I know that I'm over time. Thank you very much. I've given you a whirlwind tour of our work and some of the reasons for, and also try to address some of the challenges concerning ATT universalization. So there are our contact details, and thanks once again.